Thank you for joining me, Ashwyn Mberi, on NMH at 1, where we highlight the news making waves in Namibia and beyond, ranging from current affairs to community stories, sports and economic news. Coming up in this broadcast, Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises through the Bank of Namibia has made new regulations to make it easier to buy multiple homes using loans. While government structures employ almost twice as many women as men, a significantly larger proportion of men find themselves in management positions. And Minister of Public Enterprises through the Bank of Namibia, yet again re-emphasized in the papers, has made it easier to buy multiple homes. Stay with us as we head into the midday news update. Solomon April, Hardab Regional Governor, said housing is a crisis and business as usual has failed. He stressed that people need dignified housing, but warned investors that he will not allow cheap and poorly constructed prefabricated houses under the guise of affordable housing. The governor is speaking at the Rehoboth Land Management and Housing Development Conference.
Like I said, also school, as well as land for school has been given. We are about to build, still in this time that they are still in leadership, close to 2 schools in Rehoboth. So there is definitely something that is positive, good news, a success story in terms of land delivery. But in terms of putting infrastructure on the land, that's where the challenge is. And I think today's consultation will probably help us find solutions around that.
Governor, thank you so much.
Thank you for your interview. Jemima, I think in terms of the problem of farmers that are not able to access their farms because of others that have got the land around them is a big problem, but was never really given to my office as a worry or a problem, and therefore I haven't acted on it. But I see one thing in here, and that is that Namibians are still very far from understanding that we are because others are. We need to assist each other and work together in order to develop this country and create possible economic avenues for everyone to see change in people's lives. So if you do not allow people to access their land where they are supposed to do economic activity, you are basically selfish in terms of understanding that we need to share. The land is our land. The fact that you own it because of a title deed does not make you the person that should not allow others to access land. We should be able to access where we have our land too. So I would rather plead and beg from the farmers to please start to cooperate and understand this thing in a broader spectrum. We need each other in order to build this country, and that is to open gates so that people can access land. That in general development in Hardab region, the land delivery is still very slow. I hope that the council will really fast track the land delivery spectrum, but that also not just giving land, but bring in investors like Rehoboth is trying now to see how best they can address some of the challenges they have. Because we know the biggest challenge is money. We need money to develop the land in order for people to get houses and sanitation facilities on it. So I believe collaboration, cooperation is the solution to the problems we have in this country, but particularly in Hardab region.
Visual News highlights local stories from across Namibia right after the break.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraita. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
The Namibian Defence Force celebrated the graduation ceremony of 91 qualified cadet officers from various branches, including the NDF, Navy and Air Force, who completed the rigorous 29-week training program that commenced on 17 April at the Captain N.P. Sakaria Navy Base in Walvis Bay.
Good morning to you all. I am Brigadier General Thomas Ngotipeni Ashawa, Commandant of NDF Training Establishment. On behalf of the entire training establishment ranks and files, and indeed on my own behalf, it is my humble honor and privilege to warmly welcome you all to the graduation and commissioning ceremony at Captain Navy PN Sakaria Naval Base, to witness both the graduation parade and commissioning ceremony today. Thank you so much, or rather, thank you very much for honoring our invitations and taking time to attend. A professional qualified course is meant to transform non-commissioned officers who are already served members of the Namibian Defence Force. Therefore, today, we are witnessing the graduation of officer cadet who went through 30 weeks of training. In order to achieve such an objective, the training establishment had attached practical importance of the identified training objectives, which aims to train, transform, and equip the officers with necessary knowledges and skills to befit an officer. The training of these officers would not be as successful without all-round support by the Defence Headquarters, services, formation and units. The support rendered remains wholeheartedly appreciated.
The Embassy of Spain and Namibia Scientific Society are premiering the Future of Our Oceans documentary as part of the 2023 Science Week. The documentary, which is in Spanish with English subtitles, explores ocean science aimed at sustainable development.
And I'm really thrilled to be here. One of the reasons is because we have National Science Week, and we have multiple activities taking place throughout the week. And of course, the Spanish Embassy is one of our very big partners in Science Week, but also the Scientific Society is hosting events during this week. We've also sort of decided this year to sort of move away from the usual of National Science Week, where we just concentrate on learners, because we do the National Science Fair, which is learner-based schools, the National Math Olympiad, which is learner-based, the National Science Quiz, which is learner-based. Okay, the National Space Week is not learner-based. But we wanted to really sort of bring about a greater appreciation for science. And we want to reach not only learners, but we want to reach everybody, right, in Namibia. And this is why we decided to do it. So we have different activities. We even had a Mr. and Miss STEM. And I was just saying they're supposed to be our mascots, but I don't see them here. Maybe they're writing exams. But yes, so several activities. We're also embracing sort of the concepts for us is also embracing STEAM. So we have, for instance, exhibitions, we have art displays at the UN Plaza is where many of the events are also, in addition to universities and everywhere else. And of course we have sporting games, etc. So we want to make science, as she said, fun for everybody. I want to give you
After the break, Namibian Sun leads us into the newspaper review segment.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
We start our newspaper review with Namibian Sun. While government structures employ almost twice as many women as men, a significantly larger portion of men find themselves in management positions. This according to a report by the Public Service Commission for 2021-2022 financial year, which found that more men than women served in the management cadre positions at offices, ministries and agencies and regional council level, with women occupying only 46% of these positions. Popular Democratic Movement President McHenry Venani has announced that he will embark on a month-long tour to 100 settlements across Namibia to discuss the country's high food insecurity figures. In a statement yesterday, he called on corporate companies to step up and contribute towards the alleviation of hunger. Venani said despite being classified as an upper middle income country, 18% of Namibians live below the national poverty line. Moving on to our next story, it's in Republicane's front page, leading with a significant move towards the preservation of Namibia's national road network after Works and Transport Minister John Mutorwa introduced the mass vehicle bill in Parliament on Tuesday. In it, he proposed robust measures to minimize excessive damage to roads and to enforce mass regulations for vehicles while outlining a judgment process for violations. According to the bill, the minister can create a points-based penalty system to ensure this law is enforced. The legal aid prosecutor, who was temporarily suspended in April after allegedly making a tribalist comment on her ex-profile, formerly known as Twitter, appeared in court on Monday for the case she brought against the Ministry of Justice. Eva Maria Dorcas Pandulo Filemon, using the alias Eva Nangolo, posted a comment aimed at the Damara people of Namibia and was subsequently suspended as a legal aid representative. The ministry argued in closing statements that the decision to make statements against a cultural group that caused discord and disagreement on a public platform and to stand by it without removing it despite the discord caused justifies the ministry's decision that it acted fairly and reasonably under the circumstances. On Tuesday, a 29-year-old man was arrested in Kurenkuru in the Kavango West region after he was found with 2 pangolin scales worth 100,000 Namibian dollars in his possession. According to the Namibian police, the suspect did not have a permit to trade in such products, whereupon the scales were confiscated. That is what Agumana Zeitung has on its front page. On page 3, they're attending to the death of well-known Namibian Kuskunene Fervey, who passed away a few days ago. Friends and family share their memories of the philanthropist who made Epupa his adopted home. He had become known as the owner of Epupa Falls Lodge on the Kunene River for his numerous philanthropic deeds and above all for his close and respectful relations with the Himba people. Fervey, known to most as Kuskunene, died on October 27 after he fell and was buried with the Himba in Epupa in accordance with his wishes. We continue with the Namibian shortly.
Welcome to My.NA Cars, your ultimate destination for everything automotive.
I am your host, Diana Master. Teamwork makes the dream work, right?
Discover the latest models, innovative technologies, and expert insights from our passionate hosts. Learn essential maintenance tips and get exclusive behind-the-scenes access to the automotive industry. Don't miss My.NA Cars on NTV every Thursday at 2100 hours. Tune in and ignite your passion for automobiles.
Looking at the Namibian's front page, Minister of Finance and Public Enterprises through the Bank of Namibia has made new regulations to make it easier to buy multiple homes using loans. These new amendments came into effect on 31 October 2023 and replaced the old restrictions on loan-to-value ratios in 2019. This was revealed by Bank of Namibia spokesperson Kadembire Dembruka yesterday. A mortgage loan for a second residential property no longer requires any deposit, while mortgage loans for third and subsequent residential properties will only require a 10% deposit. 5 long-term prisoners who sued Namibia's prison authorities in an attempt to confirm that they can get a reduction of their sentences, the ones that they are serving, have won their case in the Windhoek High Court. In a judgment delivered on Tuesday, Deputy Judge President Hosea Angula declared that 5 prisoners who sued the prison authorities are eligible to be considered for a reduction of their sentences by the Minister of Home Affairs, Immigration, Safety and Security on a recommendation from the chairperson of the National Release Board. The 5 prisoners who sued the prison authorities are Rashimo Haradoeb, Veiko Shalimba, Anton Venasi, David Tsamaseb and Simon Joseph Kankondi. They are all serving long jail terms ranging from 35 to 39 years, having been convicted of crimes including murder, robbery with aggravating circumstances and arson. Moving on to New Era's front page, the apprehensions with the National Equitable Economic Empowerment Framework Bill have been received by certain quarters as misplaced, as the draft law seeks to primarily empower previously disadvantaged Namibians. This Prime Minister Sarah Kongelo Amadila said will not be done in a way of taking from the rich and giving to the poor, as held by the NEEF's antagonists. She made these remarks during a courtesy visit to State House by World Bank Vice Regional President for Eastern and Southern Africa, Victoria Kwakwa, on Tuesday. Most critics oppose the economic empowerment framework primarily because of a clause that would have forced white businesses to sell a 25% stake to previously disadvantaged black people. The Electoral Commission of Namibia has denied claims that it has employed school-going children to set up the integrated mobile voter registration system for the electoral processes of voter registration and polling stations. The ECN said this in a press statement on Monday, retaliating to the allegations made by the Landless People's Movement City of Windhoek Councillor Ivan Skryver, who questioned the validity, transparency and functionality of the integrated systems. In the statement, ECN Chief Electoral Referenda Officer Peter Sharma refuted and condemned in the strongest terms the allegations. In Market Watch, Namibia's overall government debt is mainly driven by domestic debt, according to data provided by the Ministry of Finance. For the financial year 2022-2023, domestic debt stood at 105.8 billion Namibian dollars, representing 74% of overall government debt. External debt stood at 36.9 billion Namibian dollars in the previous financial year. Now, according to Reuters, the South African rand edged higher in early trade today ahead of a speech by the Federal Reserve Chair. Stay with us.
Welcome to What's Cooking, where culinary passion meets expert insights.
Somebody must really want to cook and want to cook good food.
Immerse yourself in the bustling world of professional kitchens as top chefs create mouthwatering dishes. Join us for in-depth interviews as our host explores the experiences and expertise of our guest chefs. Don't miss out. Tune in to What's Cooking on NTV every Friday at 2100 hours and let the culinary adventure begin.
Heading into economic news, according to Reuters, the South African rand edged higher in early trade today ahead of a speech by the Federal Reserve Chair that could provide insight on possible direction for U.S. interest rates. At 6:38 GMT, the rand traded at 18.4500 against the dollar, about 0.14% stronger than its previous close. The dollar was last up about 0.03% against a basket of global currencies. Federal Chair Jerome Powell will give a speech at 7 p.m., which investors hope will hint at the future interest rate path for the world's biggest economy. He did not comment on monetary policy during an event on Wednesday, while other Fed speakers indicated earlier this week that the central bank might not be done with rate hikes. Now, like other risk-sensitive currencies, the rand often takes direction from global drivers like U.S. monetary policy in addition to local drivers. With that, let's head into the indicators. The Namibian dollar trades at 18.60 next to the US dollar, with 22.82 Namibian dollars getting you 1 British pound. Most selected NSX stock closing prices maintained their value. However, Namibia Breweries Limited managed a 0.10% uptake. Local index closed down minus 0.03%, whilst SBN Holdings is also down minus 1.10%. And in commodities, Brent crude oil is the only one in the green with a 0.58% upsurge. Liberia heads to a competitive runoff between President Weah and former Vice President Boakai. More on this development when we return with news from Africa.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraika. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news both on the WTA for women's and
Next week, Tuesday, Liberians will vote in a runoff election between President George Weah and former Vice President Joseph Boakai after a fiercely fought first round in which neither was able to score over 50% of the vote to secure an outright victory. Reuters reports.
Liberia's presidential election is headed to a runoff vote in November. That's according to the country's electoral commission. Neither President George Weah nor opposition leader Joseph Boakai got enough votes to win outright. According to tallied results, Weah holds a slim lead with 43.83% of the vote, but less than half of a percentage point separates the two candidates. The commission added there was a record turnout of nearly 79% of around 2.4 million registered voters. The October election was widely seen as a test of support for former soccer star Weah. He's been criticized for not doing enough to tackle corruption in his first term. On the campaign trail, he promised to rebuild the country's economy, institutions, and infrastructure. Boakai campaigned on what he described as the need to rescue Liberia from alleged mismanagement by Weah's administration. The runoff vote will take place on November 14th.
Let's head into our international news story. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, Volker Turk, said yesterday war crimes had been committed by both Israel and Hamas in the conflict that erupted just over a month ago.
Rafah crossing has been the symbolic lifeline for the last month for the 2.3 million in Gaza. The lifeline has been unjustly, outrageously thin. These are the gates to a living nightmare. A nightmare where people have been suffocating under persistent bombardment, mourning their families, struggling for water, for food, for electricity and fuel. On the other side of this gate is Gaza, already described as the world's biggest open-air prison before 7 October, under a 56-year occupation and a 16-year blockade by Israel. The atrocities perpetrated by Palestinian armed groups on the 7th of October were heinous. They were war crimes, as is the continued holding of hostages. The collective punishment by Israel of Palestinian civilians is also a war crime, as is unlawful, forcible evacuation of civilians.
When we return, it's time to head into the local sport updates, starting with the latest from the Demarine Namibia Premiership.
Hello and welcome to today's Sports Rep Show.
I am your host, Jesse Jackson Kauraifa. In replay, Namibia, who had won the toss for the first time on this tour.
Good day everyone, time for international sports news, starting off with tennis news, both on the WTA for women's and
Life Fighters Football Club spokesperson Terry Uyamba has reassured fans that the club will bounce back stronger. Life Fighters FC have yet to win a match this season after 9 matches played so far. The squad, composed of youngsters, has been finding it tough to score goals this season. Several fans have already expressed dismay at the performances, while also shifting blame to current management. Uyamba has, however, urged fans to have patience. Chula Chula's attacking midfielder Alpheus Lievi was removed from the national team due to indiscipline. Chula Chula's chairperson Ambrosius Tamila said in an interview with Nampa that the player's lack of discipline caused him to arrive late for national duties. After our Sunday game in Oshwarongo, we asked Lievi to travel to Windhoek and report for duty. He said that he had some belongings in Oshikango and wasn't prepared to travel. We then returned to the north, but instead of returning on Monday, he showed up on Wednesday, said Ambrosius. Let's head into international sport. Real Madrid and Bayern Munich were among the clubs to qualify for the last 16 of the Champions League, with 2 group games to spare on Wednesday, while Manchester United's poor form continued as they slipped to a stunning 4-3 defeat against FC Copenhagen. Last season's runners-up Inter Milan and Real Sociedad also secured their tickets for the knockout phase, joining holders Manchester City and RB Leipzig in advancing to the last 16. Madrid, the record 14-time European champions, made sure of their progress from Group C with a 3-0 home win over Braga. Poland's Iga Swiatek thrashed Jessica Pegula to win the WTA finals on Monday, sealing her return to world number 1. Second seed Swiatek dominated Pegula from start to finish to clinch 6-1, 6-0 victory in the 59-minute masterclass. The 17th win of Swiatek's career ensures that the 4-time major singles champion from Warsaw will finish the season as world number 1 for a second straight year. Stay with us as we head into the highlights after the break. Liberians will vote on Tuesday in a runoff election between President George Weah and former Vice President Joseph Boakai. The United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights Volker Turk said war crimes had been committed by both Israel and Hamas. And Life Fighters Football Club spokesperson has reassured fans that the club will bounce back stronger. Remember to tune in to NMH at 1 every single weekday. Stay well.